Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon and welcome to the 2 p.m. Newscast on Royal FM. Our top stories. LACAM staffs have begun undergoing training in order to get acquainted with new equipment acquired for the upcoming regional elections slated for November the 30th, 2025.
This, of course, is in the context of the decentralization which was prescribed some time ago, and LACAM is going as far as taking these steps.
Out of the country, the United Nations has called for a probe into protest killings as hundreds face treason charges in Tanzania. And in sports, 12 players have been named to represent Cameroon in the first window of the 2027 FIBA World Cup African qualifiers. Details of this and more right ahead. Dear listeners, thanks for joining us. We begin in politics. LACAM officials have today held a consultation meeting in Yaoundé with aim to guarantee a credible and transparent regional elections slated for November 30th, 2025. The Deputy Director General of Elections, Abdul Karimu, reassured stakeholders in the process that everything was set. Evans Williams Jobati has details in his report.
During the meeting, which equally featured a training session at the local voting commission chamber of the electoral body in Cameroon, many were schooled on how to manipulate the various equipment acquired for this particular event, as Christiancia Dinga outlines.
The content of the training is most especially to be able to familiarize with the principles and the standards for which it's been set for a regional elections to take place. This, of course, is in the context of the decentralization which was prescribed some time ago. So this is the implementation phase, and LACAM is going as far as taking these steps to be able to train those trainers who will be on the field to be able to make sure that delegates follow the rules and regulations.
In bids of ensuring a free, fair and transparent election, the International Consultation in Consultants in Governance and Development, as well as elections experts, disclosed that the meeting came in 45 days after the presidential elections, these according to the law.
To make sure that Cameroonians, by the time they come up, before the election body goes down for the election, they would have been able to familiarize with themselves, especially with the skills to be able to do, even when we talk about elections disputes, the voting systems, the modalities, and be able to come out with the result as it is supposed to be. And it's within the context.
And talking about the peculiarities of this November 30th process, the expert says,
it's not all the population that is going to vote. We're going to have representatives of divisions, that is, who will represent the divisions to be able to vote for those that they want to elect in power, meaning that divisions of various regions will have their representatives, and they also want to manifest the implementation of the fact that traditional rulers will also have a hand in governing through this election.
After this first training session, another will be slated with supervisory commission members and local commission members, who in turn will serve as guides to the electoral college made up of traditional chiefs and municipal councillors involved in the regional elections.
In more political news, the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Tanganji, is currently in Douala, where he is scrutinizing the political and security situation of the littoral regional capital. This comes a day after the MINAT conducted a similar exercise in the far north region. While assessing the socio-political status of the area, Paul Tanganji took time to visit some offices damaged by post-election protests, notably in the Divisional Officers Bureau in Marwa and local LACAM branches. He also reiterated President Paul Biya's message of appeasement and unity as echoed during his inaugural speech. I propose you listen to this excerpt from of Territorial Administration Minister, courtesy State Media.
I think that we should all be conscious of the fact that President Paul Biya knows Cameroon better than all of us, and we have to contribute behind President Paul Biya in our nation building. Each and every one of us should show proof of responsibility. I am from the Northwest region, and the two generals here, they have been in the Northwest region, and we can tell you that we should never accept any form of disorder, because you only know when it starts, but you can never tell when it will end. President Paul Biya will take appropriate decisions when the moment will come to address most of the issues which have been tabled by citizens, parliamentarians, and other stakeholders. So it's important for us to fight and to work to consolidate peace, unity, and tranquility. All the observers who came to witness, if there is no peace, there can be no development. We are talking to all the communities so that they should sensitize their population. If there's any person coming to promote hate speech, you should tell him clearly that you are not part of our society.
Today, November 12th, is being observed globally as World Pneumonia Day under the theme Child Survival. It is a global event aimed to spread awareness and educate people to combat pneumonia disease, which is the world's biggest infectious killer of adults and children, responsible for the majority of deaths of children below 5 years around the world. Our reporter Ngang Nadesh interviewed a health expert who shares some insights on pneumonia disease. Her reports.
Dr. Paul is a health expert. He attempts a definition of the pneumonia disease.
Pneumonia refers to the inflammation of the lungs, and this inflammation is mostly due to infectious causes. Some of these infections are like bacterial causes. Then you can also have viral infections, which are the most common, and you can also even have fungal infections.
Why pneumonia can affect anyone, vulnerable groups including young children and the elderly are more prone to the disease, often due to underlying conditions like anemia, as the health expert explains.
You can get pneumonia mostly when you are still young, below 5 years, or when you are already aged after 65 years. So this is usually due to the fact that at these ages, you have a drop in your immune system efficacy, and it will result in developing diseases like pneumonia and other type of illness. In children, it's recurrent because their immune system is not that strong, and they are still discovering the various infectious agents, and there is a possibility that you can develop real pneumonia.
The good news is that pneumonia can effectively be treated, and the approach often depends on the underlying cause. Dr. Paul once again.
The treatment of infectious pneumonia is related to the type of the causal agent. If it's due to a bacteria, then they will give antibiotic. If it's due to a virus, they will treat accordingly. And if it's due to fungi, we'll also treat with fungal medicine.
The health expert concludes by elaborating on some preventive measures that can be taken against the infectious disease.
You should make sure that the child is normally vaccinated. In our expanded program of immunization, we have the pneumococcal vaccine targeting the Streptococcus pneumoniae, and which will prevent most of the pneumonia that you will have due to bacteria when you are still young. And also we have the vaccine against the Haemophilus influenzae. This vaccine may really help the child. Apart from vaccination, you should also make sure that the child is well nourished, is living in a clean environment, is breastfed, and also make sure that the child is regularly in the hospital so that they can check if he's sick and do what is needed.
Pneumonia is a leading cause of death amongst children under 5. According to the World Health Organization, the disease accounts for approximately 40% of under 5 deaths globally.
Still to come in this newscast, Fitch Agency, an American rating institution, has revealed Cameroon's economic performance has earned positive points.
Rating agencies are important, but we also have to give the same amount of focus, the amount of commitment and bandwidth to African credit rating system.
As you just heard, Cameroon's economic performance has earned positive points from Fitch Agency. According to the American rating institution, the country's growth was estimated at 4% in 2024, with agriculture, infrastructure and energy as major driving sectors. But then, to what extent is this rating relevant in regards to the reality on the field? Jeffrey Tachum caught up with an expert and gathered their reaction in the following report.
The American agency Fitch has reaffirmed Cameroon's financial governance rating at B with both negative and positive outlooks. This decision points out the country's weaknesses despite what they consider a robust economic growth. Henry Kwam, director of the Cameroon Economic Policy Institute, examined some of these negative points.
There's structural weakness in public finance management. We have weak liquidity. We pay our external debt late. And there's also an accumulation of domestic arrears. Now, the eventual transition of political power also brings significant risks for Cameroon because there's the lack of a succession plan and heightened instability in the northwest and the southwest. The Islamist insurgents in far north equally heighten the vulnerability of Cameroon.
On the other hand, the Economist affirms that our economy is fairly going to be resilient regarding the ratings by the financial agency.
Our economy is set to grow from about 3.9% to 4.1%, which is good, driven mostly by agriculture and construction and electricity projects. Our current account deficit will also improve from about minus 3.3% in 2025. So on the whole, the economy is going to be fairly resilient.
Despite giving a considerable degree of credibility and relevance to rating agencies, Henry Kwam believes that African financial agencies should be given just enough credibility to promote objectivity.
Rating agencies are important, but we also have to give the same amount of focus, the amount of commitment and bandwidth to African credit rating system. Policymakers, especially at the Ministry of Finance, to be wary about. If there's evidence of persistent public finance management, then of course, for example, if there are new external arrears or if there are net debt repayments, all of those would cause Fitch to downgrade our rating.
By maintaining Cameroon's mark at B, Fitch acknowledged both the country's strengths and challenges. This decision comes amid varied positions taken by other rating agencies like Moody's, who decided to maintain a negative outlook for Cameroon despite projections of debt stability until 2027.
We now take you into the society to talk about friendship within enterprises or institutions. It has been noticed that people have different ways of collaborating with colleagues due to their preferences. On this note, our reporter Glory Ngange interviewed some Cameroonians who shared how they relate to their colleagues or co-workers in this Vox Pop.
We can have some people that we can talk to and exchange with. I'm a man, but I am mostly interact with women. We often distract ourselves at times, but that doesn't mean we go out of what we have to do at the workplace. We have friendships, as I can say, but with limits. I don't really think it's ideal, because when you start making friends at your workplace, you easily get out of the objective.
Friendship is a very, very difficult thing, because our society now, it is very difficult to say, I trust this person, that this is my best friend. Like for me, I relate with everybody at my job site, but I don't have a friend. We do things together, but to say I have a very good friend, I don't have.
With my colleagues, I focus mostly on what has brought us together. If it's work, we do what we have to do and we separate. If my colleague show more interest to me, like for a friendship, why not? I am open. If I'm not okay with it, I'm clearly going to tell the person that I want our relationship to limit only to colleagues.
In education, most school environments contain canteens where food is sold to learners at very affordable prices. However, vendors face several challenges, one of them being cases where students present cash that cannot acquire any of the food items. Glory Ngange visited few schools in the Mimboma neighborhood and brought back the following report.
In many schools today, a variety of food items is made available, helping learners to buy food without covering long distances. According to this anonymous food seller at a private nursery and primary school here in Mimboman, the task has become more challenging recently for many reasons.
Selling in school premises with the current economic situation is very difficult. Most of the children now bring along their snacks, which forces us to prepare just the quantity that can completely be bought. Few of those who bring money to buy from us in the campus are the seniors.
She further condemns the behavior of some pupils who do not comply with food prices and reveals how she handles such situations.
When a child brings money, we serve them what is equivalent to the amount. Sometimes we also give free bread to those whose money can only buy the filling in. But most of the time, we provide just what their money can afford.
To this other woman who speaks in broken English, she is more considerate towards these youngsters in situations where they do not respect buying prices.
My name is Mbazwa Suzanne Edith. I serve for this school, Princess Maya. All picking for day in my child, where they bring 25, 50, 100. I give them much of their rice, spaghetti, beans, anything with meat. Where I get money, I put fish.
Studies have proven that feeding well is important for the growth, development, and academic success of learners, especially balanced diet supports cognitive function, boosts energy, and enhances concentration.
Let's now welcome Mapala Zita, who is our senior reporter and editor-in-chief here at Royal FM. Good afternoon, Zita.
Good afternoon, Crispin.
Zita, with you, we talk news out of Cameroon, and we begin with neighboring Gabon, where Sylvia and Noureddin Bongo have been sentenced to 20 years in jail for embezzlement.
The wife and son of former Gabonese President Ali Bongo were found guilty of embezzling public funds and sentenced to 20 years in prison in absentia. Last night's court decision also mentioned that the First Lady was guilty of money laundering, misappropriation of funds, and incitement of forgery, while the son was also convicted of extortion, theft of titles and positions, aggravated money laundering, and criminal conspiracy. They were also both sentenced to a fine of 100 million francs CFA. Crispin.
Yes, Zita, you also say that the United Nations has called for a probe into protest killings as hundreds face treason charges in Tanzania.
The United Nations made the call on Tuesday asking for an investigation into the alleged killings of hundreds of people in protest that erupted during last month's disputed elections in Tanzania. The call comes as authorities in that country have charged hundreds of people with treason over these demonstrations. According to the United Nations Human Rights Chief Volker Turk, there was an apparent attempt from the government to conceal evidence of protesters' deaths. He further urged authorities to release bodies to families for funerals. This as families desperately continue searching for their loved ones. The main opposition party, Chadema, has said about 2,000 people were killed during 3 days of protest following the disputed polls. The government is yet to give an official death toll, but have charged hundreds of people with treason over the demonstrations.
What else is making news out of Cameroon, Zita?
Researchers and scientists in South Africa have launched clinical trials on the first domestically manufactured vaccine in over 50 years. The oral cholera vaccine is being developed by the Cape Town-based pharmaceutical firm Biovac. It is currently undergoing trial to determine its safety in adults and will be followed by trials to compare it to existing cholera vaccines that are already in the market. The South African government has described the clinical trial as a milestone in Africa's ability to produce vaccines for itself. Then Russia has lost a legal fight to build a new embassy near Australia's parliament, with the nation's top court ruling that Canberra acted within its right when it cancelled the lease for the site. Australia passed legislation in 2023 to mothball the plant's embassy building after officials deemed it to pose a security threat. Australia's Prime Minister Anthony Albanese said at the time that his government decided to revoke the lease over the specific risk posed by the site located some 300 meters from Parliament's house. Russia, which blasted the move as Russophobic hysteria, challenged the legislation in court, arguing that it was not valid until the Australian, or rather under the Australian Constitution. Crispin.
Thank you, Zita. We come back with our sports package. In basketball, the first window of the 2027 FIBA World Cup African qualifier is fast approaching, and coach Alfred Aboya has named the 12 players to represent Cameroon. The Basketball Lions are scheduled to compete in Tunisia from November 27 to November the 30th against South Sudan, Libya and Cape Verde. Biwa Bryan consulted a basketball consultant to provide an in-depth assessment of Aboya's final selection, which is detailed in the report that follows.
The roster for the upcoming World Cup bid includes Rodrigue Andela, Ariste Moa Brice Eyega, Fabiana Teba, Jeremiah Hills, Jordan Bayehi, Ladri Nkonko, Gaston Abega, Roland Eyema, Roni Ewanke, Tametang Shu, and Valentin Lili. Why this roster is deemed a good selection? Its formation was a challenging endeavor dedicated to external factors, forcing a pragmatic focus on a player's availability, as highlighted by basketball consultant Iftala.
I guess it is a good selection, more players available because we have many players injured, William Naras and Betcom Sami, Paul Bois, and we have players unavailable because of the NBA season. We can talk about Yves Thierry Missy.
Notwithstanding these voice challenges, the squad maintains a strong core, which experts consider as one of the most strength of this team. It features players with positional depth who bring valuable experience and continuity from their competitions in leagues across Europe and Asia.
We have half of the players who were at the Afrobasket. We have Captain Ateba, Jeremiah Hill, Valentin Lele, Jordan Bayehe, Brice Eyaga, and Tamena Show. Those 6 players were at the Afrobasket.
The roster successfully blends seasoned international household names with newcomers Roni Ewanke and Gaston Abega, but basketball consultant Iftala cautions that for obvious reasons the 2 new additions are expected to be integrated into the starting 11 only gradually.
We don't expect to start the game, so they are going to wait, perhaps coming off the bench to play. They are there to learn and perhaps to see. We are going to see how encounters go, and perhaps if we have players in the foul trouble, it's going to open the opportunities for them.
In order to keep their World Cup dreams alive, the Basketball Lions must secure a top 3 finish, noting that the African qualifiers employs a 2-round format which permits only the top 3 teams from Group A to secure a path to the second round of the qualifiers.
And in more sports news, after competing in approximately 4 categories, Cameroon's delegation at the ongoing Islamic Solidarity Game is actively seeking its second medal. The delegation currently holds 1 medal but saw its initial search falter yesterday with unfortunate early exit in karate, weightlifting and table tennis. With more days to go, Cameroon is set to resume its medal hunts today with a focus on competitions in weightlifting. The indomitable Lions are facing last-minute crisis as they prepare for their match against the Democratic Republic of Congo tomorrow. 3 of the team's players, including Zambo Anguissa and Choupo-Moting, have been sidelined due to injuries, while the availability of Andre Onana is doubtful. Despite these shortages, sports analyst Raymond Elume calls on the coach to adapt his formation. Take a listen.
I think the coach needs to tweak his team a little bit to the opponent, bearing in mind that we may either meet Gabon or Nigeria in the final game, which If we are able to win that game, I think it qualifies us now for the intercontinental playoffs. And notwithstanding the fact that in the upcoming AFCON, we have Gabon as our first match. That's on Christmas Eve. Then we have Cote d'Ivoire, and then we have Mozambique. So it's really a tough proposition for the coach. I think we are looking at hopefully 2 matches this November before we start AFCON in December.
Bon après-midi, Olivier Ndema et Paul.
Good afternoon, Frédéric Crispin.
You are here with the summary of this newscast in the French language.
Le 12 novembre est la date de la célébration de la Journée mondiale de la pneumonie, une manifestation à laquelle se joint le Cameroun et qui a pour objet la prévention et la sensibilisation contre les ravages liés à ces infections. Elles sont responsables, les pneumonies, de 14% des décès d'enfants de moins de 5 ans dans le monde. Les pneumonies sont évitables grâce à des vaccins. Hors de nos frontières, au Gabon, la Cour criminelle spécialisée de Libreville condamne l'ex-première dame Sylvia Bongo Ondimba et son fils aîné Noureddin Bongo Valentin à une peine d'emprisonnement ferme de 20 années assortie de 100 millions d'amendes. Ils sont reconnus coupables d'un ensemble d'infractions dont le détournement de fonds publics, la corruption, le blanchiment de capitaux ou l'association de malfaiteurs. Le verdict a été rendu hier après 2 jours de procès. En sport, pour finir, tournoi des barrages pour la Coupe du Monde 2026 de football, la sélection nationale senior du Cameroun connaît son 3e jour de stage de préparation au Maroc. L'infirmerie voit 2 fauves de plus s'ajouter. Il s'agit du milieu de terrain Franck Zambouanguissa et de l'attaquant Eric Maxime Choupo-Moting. Ceci pour un total de 4 forfaits probables pour l'opposition de jeudi avec la RD Congo.
The 2pm newscast was technically assisted by Romeo Adekume, our sound engineer and studios clerk, video editor Brian Bida, producers Glory Ngange and Gang Nadesh, news editing Mapala Zita, editorial coaching-able Bela Samari, coordination Roger Kiek, general supervision the Reverend Pastor Bisaya Emmanuel Noel. For presentation, I have been Frédéric Crispin. Up next is Sport Hour with Biwa Brian. Good afternoon once more, Biwa.
Good afternoon, Crispin.
Tell us about Sport Hour this afternoon.
Yes, we're going to base off in football. The Indomitable Lions are going to face the Democratic Republic of Congo tomorrow. It is a very important game which is going to decide our fate. We have a very long path to qualifying for the World Cup. That is, if eventually we're going to qualify, then we must first of all start by winning tomorrow's game. And it is coming at a time when we have shortcomings already in the team. We have 2 players who have already been injured. Before that, 1 player was already injured and couldn't come for a camp. We have Andrew Nana equally who is not certain of making it. So we are going to see, will this impact